The following is paid for by the Real Estate Radio Network. You're listening to Real Estate Radio Fresno on News Talk 580 KMJ and 105.9 the FM KMJ. Now, live in studio, your host, local real estate expert, Craig Barton.
Good morning, Central California. They're telling me to slow down this morning. What is the deal? Are you telling me not to come percolated? I can't have coffee before.
How about half percolated? How about half decaf?
Half decaf, great. Something to look forward to on Sunday morning. I'm your host, Craig Barton, and I am going to slow down today. Welcome to the Real Estate Radio Network, the most important hour of radio, important and informative hour of radio each week. And fun. Because we're quirky. On News Talk 580 and 105.9 KMJ. You know, Real Estate Radio is a show dedicated to bring... I always trip up on that. It's a show dedicated to bringing some rational thought to the crazy world that we live in and helping you to experience some financial wellness and really help to rebuild the Central Valley's housing and credit markets. Within every market, there are solutions as well as tremendous opportunities. You just need some trusted advice. And that's exactly what you're going to hear every Sunday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. here on News Talk 580 and 105.9 KMJ. Did you get that right, John? Are we good?
That was frightening.
That was...
If they could see that, it was a little bit scary.
As always, it's so good to have my special guest host, Johnny B. Actually, let's start with Johnny, the most important guy behind the mics. Johnny B., thanks so much, buddy, for getting up with us. Really appreciate it. Lisa Casso.
Good morning.
Client mommy. Soon-to-be client grandmommy again. Yeah.
Not excited about that at all.
I couldn't tell.
Feels like the first time.
Feels like there's a song about that. Tim, would you break into song for us, please?
Not today.
If we were in the office, he would, I promise.
If we were in the office, you bet he would. Tim O'Hara, our licensed mortgage originator. And I say licensed because he is legal. He's legal in this arena.
The state.
In California
in the state, yes.
Rhode Island.
No, not even Rhode Island. Not even Rhode Island.
Good morning.
Yeah. Great to have you here. And Susan Pascuzzi.
Good morning, Craig.
Heavy hitter from Pascuzzi and Stoker. How are you doing? She doesn't know how to... Susan doesn't really know how to take me yet.
Susan, we've been excited all week to have you here.
It's like she's waiting for the next shoe to drop.
Not quite sure what to expect, Craig, but yes, I'm ready for it.
There you go. Hey, we're going to keep you on your toes, that's for sure, this Sunday morning. Susan's here to talk to us about estates. And so we're sitting in the office this week, and what's that? Good night. Keeping it light. Yeah, exactly. We're talking about death and dying here on Real Estate Radio on Sunday morning. When you start talking about estates and estate planning, it is something that is really extremely difficult for folks, A, to start talking about, but more importantly, B, actually start doing something about it. But we're going to talk in greater detail about it, and we're also going to give really the top 10 most important questions that our listeners need to ask themselves about estate planning. So we're going to go into greater detail. We will say if you fail to estate plan, you plan to fail. And so do your heirs.
Yeah. Precisely, Craig. That's who's going to pay the price.
Exactly. And we're also going to talk about some James Gandolfini we're going to have here in the studio. Actually, the ghost of James Gandolfini we're going to have in the studio this morning to talk about why his estate is just a whole lot lighter in the shorts about a year and a half after his passing. It's actually really interesting. And we're hoping to really grab your attention because this is talking about your stuff. And in the event that you do pass, do you have everything?
In the event that you do, like it's a question.
Okay.
I think it's if or when rather than if.
Yeah, okay. So, all right, I've been corrected. So anymore. When you pass, who's going to get your stuff? And now there are some people out there, I'm sure, that would say that it really doesn't matter, but it does.
Well,
It really does. Who's going to get your stuff?
Doesn't matter to you.
More importantly is who you do not want to get your stuff.
Well, there you go.
That's a good point, Tim.
In other words, don't be in Tim's will and piss him off, because then you're not going to get any of his stuff, right?
I wanted the dog.
You wanted the dog. There you go. The Real Estate Radio Network gives us the opportunity to reach so many people efficiently for 1 full hour each and every week. Johnny just slowed us down. Did you notice that there? Our goal with the Real Estate Radio Network is to get you, our listeners, the timely and accurate truth about your local real estate market. We are going to share some financial secrets with you that the big banks and Wall Street don't want you to hear, so we can help bring you back home. I was actually kind of baiting you and hoping that you could join in there.
Wanting me to finish?
Yeah, I was wanting you to finish, but hey, maybe next time, okay? On today's show, to be young and optimistic about renting versus buying. We didn't get to this story this past week because obviously we do get off track quite regularly. And Lisa's favorite story that we didn't get to last week, someone at Ocwen had better limber up their check-writing hand.
Ocwen, the bank of my dreams.
The bank of your dreams.
Not.
As you hear if this were at night, and as you hear the thunder and lightning flash in the, lightning flash in the background. And
tears streaming down my face.
Exactly.
Head banging.
And when will Capitol Hill get on the same page and make the tax deductibility of mortgage insurance permanent? Sounds like our deducting MI on our taxes is once again a political football on Capitol Hill. And as we mentioned, we have Susan Pascuzzi from Pascuzzi Pascuzzi and Stoker here in the studio to talk with us about estate planning. And again, if you have stuff and you want to make sure your stuff doesn't just go all to taxes or to the government or have to go through probate.
Or to your oldest brother.
Keeping
it real, Tim.
Just
keeping it real.
Then you had better stay tuned. Again, if you have any real estate or mortgage-related questions or questions regarding the information that we share here on the show this Sunday morning, it all starts with one phone call, and that's a phone call from you. Call us anytime on our toll-free number. This is an off-hour or an offline or off-radio, anytime off-air. There you go. That's the number. That was what I was looking for. You can call anytime, not just during the show, but after the show.
Any day of the week?
Any day of the week.
Doesn't matter? Doesn't have to be Sunday?
Doesn't matter. Doesn't have to be Sunday.
You just won't be quite as percolated?
No. I guarantee you I will be quite percolated. Call us anytime, 800-979-3958. And again, that's 800-979-3958. We'd love to hear from you. Take us with you wherever you go and listen to us on your smartphone at kmjnow.com. You can listen to Ray, you can listen to Chris, you can listen to all sorts of Lisa, yes, Tim, yeah,
myself,
even Susan. You can listen to Johnny on the KMJ Now app.
You can,
absolutely. It's the many voices of Johnny B. You can also check out our resources online and listen to past shows from the Real Estate Radio Network. You can also use one of our free tools. You can search for your next home by going to valleywidesells.com. Again, that's valleywidesells.com. Well, let's take a look at today's hot property. Today's hot property is brought to you by our buddy Bert Welsh at Win Home Inspections. If you're in contract, or let's say you're a seller and you're thinking about selling your home and you'd like to do a pre-selling or a pre-listing home inspection, a lot of agents don't necessarily think of it that way, but it's a great idea. Give Bert a call today for all your home inspection needs. You can contact Bert at 559-363-4080. Again, that's 559-363-4080. Today's hot property is 2744 East Decatur Avenue, Fresno, California, 93720. Now, this property is located on the northwest corner of Willow and Alluvial. A 1,989 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath home built in 2005 on a 7,236 square foot corner lot. List price of this property is $275,000. If you'd like more information about today's hot property, give us a call anytime, 800-979-3958. Again, that's 800-979-3958. And we will send you more information about today's hot property right to your phone. Look for more hot properties each week right here on the Real Estate Radio Network. Well, young renters are definitely optimistic. And I think this is extremely important because This particular study that was completed by the California Association of Realtors states that in 2013, on average, 89% of young renters said they were still planning to buy a home at some point in the near future. So I think when they talk about consumer confidence, being optimistic about the market not outpacing you. This wasn't a study about asking the question in 3 to 5 years, did you think that you'd be able to afford a home? The intent is that young renters are optimistic about buying a home in the future, whether they're in a position to buy now or still saving toward their American dream, saving their down payment. Young renters are optimistic about home ownership. And what are some of the benefits that they see about owning a home? Well, 81% of those surveyed stated that it allows you to live in a nicer home. So they believe that where you live as opposed to where you rent, 81% of those surveyed said that it would be nicer. 80% believe that it was a great way to accumulate wealth. Probably not too many of their parents bought homes in 2006, which is probably a good thing, because if they did, they bought just as the plane was running out of gas. 76% of those surveyed that buying a home was a good investment over the long term. So they believe that it was a great way to accumulate wealth.
How old are these people?
Good question. It doesn't say.
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe next time ask me before the show, and I'll look it up. No, I'm just kidding. 75% of those surveyed said that it helps you engage in your community, helps you.
That's my favorite one.
Yeah. 66%, it leaves you better off overall financially. Isn't that so interesting that 3 out of the top 5 touch on accumulating wealth, greater financial stability.
Most people, that's their biggest investment in their life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you do it right, and let's say for whatever reason you are able to roll it to another property, roll your equity to another property at some point down the road, if you do it right, and Social Security was never intended to be something that is going to support you in your latter years. If you're 62 or older, you can utilize a reverse mortgage to not quote-unquote cancel the debt, but stop that
monthly payment
from recurring. Now, you are responsible for your taxes and insurances, but what a great way to, at some point down the road, if you have at least 50% equity in the property, you could even purchase a property utilizing a reverse mortgage and not have a monthly payment.
That's a sweet deal.
Yeah, that's a really sweet deal. So therein, it allows you to be able to leverage your Social Security or your pension just that much more.
So start young.
Absolutely, start
well
young.
Over 50%.
Exactly. Well, Florida preparing for Ocwen payouts. Oh, Lisa, you're going to be happy to hear this. Someone at Ocwen Financial had better limber up their check writing hand. About 26,000. Now, why is it just 26,000 Floridians will soon be receiving forms for their portion of a recent $2.1 billion settlement. The settlement specifies payments to about 180,000 Ocwen customers who lost their home to foreclosure between the years of 2009 and 2012. Florida has the second highest share of the settlement's relief portion of $125 million. Ocwen agreed to the settlement after numerous allegations of mortgage servicing misconduct, including a Consumer Finance Protection Bureau probe that found that hello, you're on the air. Oh, sorry, Johnny doesn't know what happened. Oh my gosh, including a Consumer Finance Protection Bureau probe that found that the company took advantage of borrowers at every. That's pretty blanket.
I am
at every
shocked.
stage in the process.
I am absolutely shocked.
Now I'm gonna chime in here with something totally and completely unrelated. I was listening this week, and there was a basketball player. The reason I bring this up, there was a basketball player from North Carolina that stated that when he went to North Carolina and played for Roy Williams, that he was told, this is what your major is going to be, and it was Black Studies, African American Studies, okay, and that these are the courses that you take. And at one point, he was doing so poorly that he was going to be on academic probation. And the next year, he ended up on the dean's list. and that he got this letter, and he never went to class. He was never required to do anything with regards to class. And his statement was, which it's kind of unnerving to me when, okay, Ocwen, we know that Ocwen is not the funnest mortgage servicer to deal with. And we have firsthand contact, Lisa does, that it's just not fun. Do you want to speak with somebody onshore, offshore? Okay, we're going to schedule an appointment 25 days from now, and you can talk to somebody.
Maybe.
It's a bit of a charade. It really is.
Lots of hoops.
Yeah. My whole point is this is something that is... Like you were this week, Tim, you went on a webinar about a lender that prior to getting loan docs, the borrowers are going to be sent an email, and you have to answer 18 questions?
17 questions, I think
17 questions about the mortgage process, which is just really making it, I don't know if it's painting us into a corner in terms of our ability to think for ourselves, but this kid from North Carolina said that, because he was asked point blank, why didn't you say something at the time about this fraud that is going on in the
university,
at the university level? And that's not the only university that this was happening at, or that this is happening at. And he said, well, I was focused on getting to the NBA. Okay, so why is now the right time? Well, because I want to stop it for everybody else.
Except myself.
Except myself. And, mine isn't to, slam or throw anybody under the bus. You're on ESPN Radio. Hello? What do you mean your job is not to throw anyone under the bus? You just flat out said that Coach Williams had nothing to do. His job is not to advise about your planned course of educational pursuit, but is to teach you to be a better basketball player and be an NBA basketball. I just thought it was a cop-out, and I think that we have to be very, very careful. These, I don't know, it's just, it's bothersome because I think some people claim to be ignorant to the process, as opposed to, in other words, I believe it's kind of shifting the responsibility for, if I sign on the bottom line and I can't make my payments, okay, that doesn't entitle me to a payout per se. And I'm not slamming the fact that this is Florida's attorneys general, or this may have been part of the 49 states $26 billion payout nationally that was settled a couple years ago, or at least came to fruition a couple years ago. I just think it's very difficult. I signed on the bottom line. I knew what I was doing. Mm-hmm. I made a poor financial choice. And I think we just have to be very, very careful. But then
that would be taking... Well, in that case, you can't blame anybody. Well, and how are we supposed to move forward in society if we can't blame somebody?
Oh boy! All righty. Well, there is. Speaking of something on a lighter note, there is good news. The tax deductibility of your mortgage your mortgage insurance. And for those of our listeners that may not know, mortgage insurance protects the investor in the event that you.
Protects Ocwen.
It protects Ocwen in the event that you default. Well, the House and Ways and Means Committee Chairman Dave Camp will push this month to make permanent a tax break for private mortgage insurance. Ay, ay, ay. And that it's still a political football is what bothers me, is that it expired. And more than 6 months after a series of tax initiatives, including some mortgage-related measures, expired due to congressional inaction. But how many times has, the budget, or how many times has it become a political football? And they've demonstrated time and time again, unfortunately, that they do not possess the wherewithal, and have stated in this particular article, we're just going to wait till after the election. And then we're going to deal with it.
How convenient.
How convenient. Exactly. We don't want it to affect anything that we're doing.
There's too much on their plate at this point in time.
Absolutely. I like that joke. If you're thinking of selling your home but not sure what professional to ask exactly how much your home is worth, well, we have a free resource that you can turn to. Just go to our website, valleywidehomevalues.com. Whether you're thinking of purchasing a home, whether you are in a home and you're curious what it is worth, or let's say you're thinking about refinancing and in the past you haven't had sufficient equity, just go to our website, valleywidehomevalues.com. Go down the page about 3/4 of the way on the right-hand side and click on what is your home worth. Tell us a little bit about your home and any special things that your home might have, like gold-plated toilets, and we'll generate a totally free market analysis that hopefully will create some conversation and that we might be able to help in whatever way that is, whether it's selling a home, purchasing a home, maybe selling a home that is part of your estate or an estate that you are the trustee for. Good, huh? Like how I threw that in there?
I like that, Craig.
Well, it's real. I mean, it's happened.
It is very real.
We have people call us all the time.
Absolutely. It's funny you say that because we do. We have folks all the time that are thinking about disposing of a piece of real estate, whether it's to be, they want to gift it. Like as an example, we had Brent Riffle from Convoy of Hope last week on the show, and they're thinking about making a donation. Well, as Brent would put it, nonprofits aren't really set up for clunky gifts, and it gives us the ability to be able to help someone dispose of a piece of real estate that, like the example he gave last week, the mom had given each of the kids $3 million, gifted to them, and had a number of properties that she needed to settle, but wanted to accomplish some of her gift-giving goals, and that was one way. So there's a lot of different ways that this can be utilized, that's for sure. Again, if you have any real estate or mortgage-related questions or questions regarding something that we talk about here on the Real Estate Radio Network, it all starts with one phone call. You can call us anytime on our on-air as well as off-air number, 800-979-3958. Again, that's 800-979-3958. You can take us with you wherever you go and listen to us on your smartphone at kmjnow.com. You can also check out our resources online. If you have a question regarding help with regards to foreclosure, or you need some information regarding a reverse mortgage or buying a piece of real estate, go to valleywidesells.com. Well, as we mentioned, we're very fortunate to have, as part of our conversation this morning, Susan Pascuzzi from Pascuzzi, Pascuzzi & Stoker here in the office to talk about estate planning. As Susan says, it can never be too soon to start estate planning, but it most certainly can be too late. Make sure you stay with us. You're listening to the Real Estate Radio Network, helping you to redefine real estate here on News Talk 580 and 105.9 KMJ.
This program is brought to you by the Real Estate Radio Network. Visit realestateradio.us for more info. That's realestateradio.us.
Have you ever thought about going solar? It's never been easier to go solar than with a SunPower lease. You'll start saving money the very first day. Arise Solar has a team of energy consultants ready to help you determine if going solar is right for you. Start taking control of your energy costs. Contact Arise Solar, your local SunPower Elite dealer, at 449-8989. That's Arise Solar at 449-8989. Or use press 4 keywords, Arise Solar.
Rick Ransom, a local guy, began his career in mortgage lending in 1989. In 91, he became one of the first reverse mortgage lenders in California. Since that time, he's helped hundreds of seniors with reverse mortgages and other senior-related issues. And he's one of the few in this business who is a CPA.
This is Rick Ransom. Much of what you hear on TV and radio is not altogether true. There is misinformation. A reverse mortgage can help you supplement your retirement, pay off your existing mortgage or credit cards, even purchase a new home. If you're ready for a free face-to-face meeting with someone with 45 years experience in the application process, call me at 221-5355. That's 221-5355. I look forward to meeting with you.
DRE number 513201, NMLS number 240770.
When it comes to investing in wealth management, you can find good counsel from someone at a local office for a Wall Street firm. And if you do well, a main office in New York does well. However, we at Thies & Duker Financial Consulting Group offer a very different choice. Our associates offer Wall Street experience from an independent, local company. We answer to you, not New York. Thies & Duker's owners, associates, and staff members live right here. We're your neighbors.
I'm Tom Morgan, a financial consultant with Thies & Duker Financial Consulting Group. I recently joined Thies & Duker because I wanted to serve my clients in an independent firm that truly values clients, families, and this community. If that's what you're looking for too, give me a call at 448-8190.
Feel right at home at Thies & Duker. Visit us online at thiesandduker.com. THIESENDUEKER.com.
The consultants at Thies & Duker are registered representatives with and securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC.
All it takes is one call to the professionals at Valleywide Homes, and you'll start building wealth in real estate. Whether you're looking for your first home, moving up, or your next income-producing property, let Craig and his team at Valleywide help. There's never been a better time to get into the real estate market. Start the search for your next home by visiting our website at valleywidesells.com or call toll-free 800-979-3958. That's 800-979-3958, and put the seasoned professionals at Valleywide Homes to work for you.
You're listening to the Real Estate Radio Network with local expert Craig Barton. Now, here's Craig.
So, is it my turn? Do I get to talk? So we're trying to make it lively, as we normally do every Sunday morning. And again, we mentioned that we have Susan Pascuzzi from Pascuzzi and Stoker here in the studio to talk about estate planning. We're going to really try to make. I don't want to say we're going to try to make. We're going to try to make estate planning fun.
Right? Wait, Craig, you've given me a pretty difficult job here.
Difficult task here.
We'll try.
Yeah, we'll try. No, I know you will. You'll do fine. So I want to bring a real-world example to the table to talk about estate planning. And really, because my goal is that folks can relate. Now, this is art imitating life to a certain degree. You remember Tony Soprano? So James Gandolfini passed away first part of 2013. Well, estate lawyers for the Sopranos star stated that Gandolfini left behind a disaster from a tax standpoint, and stated that more than $30 million of Gandolfini's $70 million, to me that seems like a lot, kids, doesn't it to you?
It is a lot.
$30 million of his $70 million estate could be owed to the government. Now, the main problem is that Gandolfini left 80% of his estate to his sisters Lita and Johanna and his 9-month-old daughter Lillian Ruth, including 30% each to the two sisters and 20% to the daughter, meaning that 80% of the estate will be subject to a 55, whatever state or federal laws this is pertaining to, will be subject to the 55% estate tax rate. Now, the taxes will be due in 9 months.
9 months,
so
that's
you
right.
bet they were saving their shekels. Now, Gandolfini bequeathed $1.7 million to his assistant and some of his friends and relatives, according to the magazine, or the magazine Daily Finance. Now, the will specifies that that the shares of his estate would be divided up after the taxes are paid. Gandolfini left the other 20% of the estate to his wife, Deborah Lynn, but because of the heavy taxes, she will end up with about 20% of the $40 million remaining in the estate, instead of 20% of the original $70 million. Now, if he had bequeathed, this is just an example. This is what they are contending. And the point that I bring to light is everyone's situation is different. It's just that you have someone that is very public in terms of their persona and who they played in Hollywood. But when you look at a $70 million number and stating that 30 mil, that's all you got left, kids. Or, excuse me, 40 mil, that's all you got left. That 30 million is going to go to taxes. So, have I got your attention this morning yet? I mean, really seriously. We're talking about estate planning. Those, again, that we mentioned that fail to plan really do plan to fail. So, estate planning in and of itself, in a general term, talk about estate planning real quick.
Well, first of all, just a comment on Gandolfini. He was Italian, so maybe this was just his way of getting back at his family.
You're not going to get any money from me, I'm telling you right now.
I'd rather give it to the government than to you.
Forget about it.
When it comes to inheritance taxes, in 2013, when Gandolfini passed away, a person could leave $5.25 million worth of assets tax-free. He was married. He could have maybe done a little more in the way of estate planning, maybe some charitable remainder trusts. Yes, there was definitely some ways he could have protected his estate from inheritance taxes. Fortunately, or unfortunately, I don't have to deal with a lot of people who have estates over $10.5 million.
But it's a great example when it becomes that big. Bottom line is your estate. If you've got stuff and you want your stuff to pass on to the heirs to your stuff,
and not the government,
the government,
right?
And also, you brought up something, you stated it extremely well, and correct me or restate it. If you want someone else, namely the courts, to figure out exactly how this goes down, don't do a thing.
That's right.
And if you don't want much of your stuff to be left over, don't do a thing. But if you do, everyone's situation is so different.
That's true. And every estate plan is going to differ depending on a person's individual situation. But getting back to what you said, yes, California law is going to distribute your estate the way the probate code says it will be distributed if you don't create some type of a document, namely a will or a trust, that designates who you want to get your property. So if you don't do anything, your assets are going to go the way the state of California says they're going to be distributed. And if your estate has to go through a court process called probate, it's not so much that you're paying money to the government, but you're going to pay a lot of money to attorneys in order to assist you to go through that court process called probate. And, of course, the court filing fees alone have just gotten outrageous based on the state and the county government fiscal issues and the fact that court filing fees and court costs have gone up dramatically in the last few years.
And not to mention the time, too.
Time, too.
As well as if there's anybody contests it, it's going to... Obviously,
that's right.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you open the door to the court process to try to settle the estate, that door is open to anybody that wants to come in and now state their complaints or make their objections to the way the estate is going to be distributed.
Make their claims to your stuff. You know that when they ask that question, Tim, are you sure that's all the kids you have?
Some people can't answer that question.
Yeah, exactly my point. So what are some of the common vehicles that are utilized? I mean, first and foremost, sitting down and having the conversation with you with regards to planning for you not being here. And that's not something that is necessarily fun or easy for some folks. Some folks
right.
are in denial until the end. But once you've sat down and had that conversation, depending upon what types of assets and who they want those assets to go to, first and foremost, the first vehicle that you utilize to specify in the event that you're not here is called a will. Talk about wills real quick.
A will is just a document that says, when I'm gone, this is how I want my assets distributed. And it can be very specific. I've had some people that want to get in and say, I want my dishwasher to go to this person, and I want my TV to go to that
my
one.
My Hello Kitty collection to
right.
go to.
Whether they want it or not.
I don't have one. Yeah.
Right. So some people will be very specific. Others are just more general. And I divide my estate in equal shares to so-and-so and so-and-so, or my children. And if one of my children should fail to survive me, then what they want to happen to that portion of the estate. So a will is just the document that you create that says how you want things distributed. And it nominates who you want to be in charge of distributing the assets.
That's awful.
It's not a fun
kids,
job.
Yes.
With my children, it would have to be a non-family member.
Well, take the scenario where you have 5 children and you don't have a will. each one of those, and there's no surviving spouse, each one of the 5 children has an equal right to be appointed as the administrator of your estate.
So what do? Put them in a ring and let them fight for it?
Almost, because
I know
that's what the court will do, because everyone that wants to be in charge has to file their own separate petition with the court asking to be appointed as the administrator, and then the court has to decide based on testimony and documentary evidence who's most qualified. And if it's a toss-up or say they're all so adversarial that the court doesn't like any of them, they can have the public administrator's office be in charge of your estate.
Good times.
Yeah.
So if you really, if you really don't want someone to figure this all out, for you, then don't do anything. I'm sure that there are instances where the reason why a parent didn't choose one of their children is because they were afraid they were going to hurt somebody's feelings, Lisa.
Absolutely.
And that's why you choose. And you can choose anyone to be the trustee.
Right. It doesn't have to be one of your children or one of the beneficiaries. There's a lot of professional, what they call a professional fiduciary that can take that position. Or maybe you have a trusted friend, financial advisor, a CPA, or you can nominate an attorney. It can't be the drafting attorney, but an attorney can be in charge too. An outside person may ultimately cost more to the estate, but if your kids just can't get along, you may have no other option.
More fairly, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you, if you're asked to be the trustee, can you
say no?
Say no? Yeah.
Yes. You don't have to accept that job. It's one of those thankless positions that can also open you up for a great deal of liability if you don't do it correctly. So, yeah.
Nice.
So, thank you. And again, another example another reason as to why folks that have stuff, and I'm being very general, if you have stuff and you want to ensure that your stuff gets into the hands of those beneficiaries that have a right or a claim to any portion of your estate, you've got to do it the right way.
Right. And Craig, everybody has stuff. It's just some people have more stuff than other people.
Yeah, let's talk about that in terms of what typically. So you have a will, and you decide that they've sat down with you, and you've decided that collectively that you really need a trust. What types of assets do you protect within a trust?
A trust doesn't protect assets from, say, creditors' claims. A lot of people are misinformed, thinking if they put their assets in the trust, they're protected for all purposes. They're not. All a trust is really doing is holding title to your assets. You're holding title to your own assets as the trustee of this trust. And if you become incapacitated or you're no longer around, whoever you designate as your successor trustee can then step into your shoes as the manager of those assets and can do anything with those assets that you could have had you been here to do so. So it not only protects the family in the event of a death, but also if you were to become incapacitated, somebody can deal with those assets, sell a piece of real estate, carry on with the litigation matter, sue on your behalf. So it's continuity in the financial matters that just need to be taken care of, whether you can't do it anymore because you're incapacitated or you're no longer here.
Interesting. So it's there to protect your stuff, but also to ensure that once you're gone, the assets can be protected from from taxation to a degree, correct?
To a degree, what it does protect the estate from cost-wise would be the cost of probate, which can be astronomical because of, actually what it is the amount of attorney's fees that can be charged in a probate estate. And that's also set by California law, which is, I'm sure attorneys lobby for this law. A quite generous fee. For examples, 4% of the first $100,000, 3% of the next $100,000, 2% of the next $800,000, plus court costs. And your executor is also entitled to that same statutory compensation. You could be looking at $25,000 $50,000, depending on how large your estate is. Just a very, very simple estate where we have a house that's worth $200,000. You're looking at $7,000 in attorney's fees, double that for your executor fee if they're going to take a fee, plus another $1,500 to $2,000 in court costs. All of which could have been avoided if that property had just been put into a simple living trust.
Wow.
So for a person that has real estate to not do a trust, it's just... just no reason to not have a trust if that sole reason alone, just to avoid those probate costs.
Gotcha. So we were talking about some of the most important documents this week when we spoke on the phone, some of the most important documents that you need to make sure that you have in place. Give our listeners an example of, you had spoken of or mentioned one of them, which is a medical power of attorney.
That's right. And there's actually 2 documents that every person should have, even if they have very minimal stuff. And those documents are a durable power of attorney for financial decisions and a durable power of attorney for medical decisions. For financial matters, even between spouses, I don't know if you've ever tried to change your cable service and the bill just came into one name rather than both names, or your PG&E or a phone bill or an insurance. Yep. No one will talk to you because you're not on the account.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So in this day and age of financial privacy, even spouses for each other cannot handle certain financial matters if one spouse becomes incapacitated unless you have a durable power of attorney. Durable just means it survives an incapacity. So it's a power of attorney, but it's durable, so it continues on even in the event that person became incapacitated and can't sign a document for themselves, or maybe mentally can't make financial decisions anymore. A medical power of attorney, it serves 2 purposes. One, it lets your family know what you would want in the event you can't make your own medical decisions, especially in connection with life-sustaining treatment. The second important purpose of that document is what's called a HIPAA release. HIPAA is the Health Insurance Patient Portability Act. In short, what it means is you can't get medical records for anybody unless they've signed a HIPAA release allowing you to receive that medical information. So even between spouses, and I had a situation where the husband was making the decisions for the wife. They were both elderly. He had been making her decisions for a long time, never needed a health care power of attorney. It was just happening. But then there became an issue with the insurance between Medi-Cal and the secondary provider as to who was going to be responsible for a bill. And he couldn't get the medical records in order just to clear up a billing issue after she had passed on. And they wanted him to be appointed as a special administrator in her estate and go through a court process in order to release documents. So again, something very simple that can be created that can avoid a whole lot of heartache later on.
Really, when it comes right down to it, is just talking to a professional like yourself. I will say this, over the last 10 or 15 years, and especially having to deal with the passing of both of my parents within a relatively short period of time, you become, I wouldn't want to say well-versed given that set of circumstances, how important it is to have that medical release. It is just without fail so important to be able to make decisions on behalf of someone that is incapacitated. Secondarily, the folks that if someone does pass away, how do you ensure that as far as your last will and testament's concerned, what is your service going to look like, and how do you want to be buried? Those types of things. And again, it's not necessarily the most pleasant thing for folks to talk about, but it is inevitable that it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And so talking about your estate, talking about your will, talking about ensuring that you have someone there in place to make financial decisions on your behalf with a financial power of attorney, make medical decisions on your behalf with a medical power of attorney, and in the event that you do have stuff, or a piece of real estate, or for that matter, 18 pieces of real estate, income-producing properties that you and the wife have accumulated over the last 25 years, and you need to ensure that it is all taken care of and that it's going to who it's supposed to be going to. In order to do it efficiently, you've got a plan.
Right. And to make sure it's managed properly with the right people in charge is also very important. People that know what they're doing and can carry out your goals.
Absolutely. So if you do have questions with regards to just sitting down with Susan and having a conversation about estate planning as it pertains to you, give Susan a call. Area code 559-227-1100. Again, that's area code 559-227-1290. Again, if you have any real estate or mortgage related questions or a question about what we're talking about with regards to estate planning this morning, it all starts with one call. Give us a call anytime. 800-979-3958. Again, that's 800-979-3958. Take us with you wherever you go and listen to us on your smartphone at kmjnow.com. You can also check for your next home. Yes, that's right. You can search for your next home with the most timely and up-to-date resource at valleywidesells.com. Well, after the break, we're going to continue our conversation with Susan Pascuzzi. We are going to tell you folks the 10 questions you have to ask yourself if you want to preserve your financial legacy. Make sure you stay with us. You're listening to the Real Estate Radio Network, helping you to redefine real estate. Here on News Talk 580 and 105.9 KMJ.
This program is brought to you by the Real Estate Radio Network. Visit realestateradio.us for more info. That's realestateradio.us.
Have you ever thought about going solar? It's never been easier to go solar than with a SunPower lease. You'll start saving money the very first day. Arise Solar has a team of energy consultants ready to help you determine if going solar is right for you. Start taking control of your energy costs. Contact Arise Solar, your local SunPower Elite dealer, at 449-8989. That's Arise Solar at 449-8989. Or use press 4 keywords, Arise Solar.
Rick Ransom, a local guy, began his career in mortgage lending in 1989. In 91, he became one of the first reverse mortgage lenders in California. Since that time, he's helped hundreds of seniors with reverse mortgages and other senior-related issues. And he's one of the few in this business who is a CPA.
This is Rick Ransom. Much of what you hear on TV and radio is not altogether true. There is misinformation. A reverse mortgage can help you supplement your retirement, pay off your existing mortgage or credit cards, even purchase a new home. If you're ready for a free face-to-face meeting with someone with 45 years experience in the application process, call me at 221-5355. That's 221-5355. I look forward to meeting with you.
DRE number 513201, NMLS number 240770.
When it comes to investing and wealth management, you can find good counsel from someone at a local office for a Wall Street firm. And if you do well, a main office in New York does well. However, we at Thies & Duker Financial Consulting Group offer a very different choice. Our associates offer Wall Street experience from an independent, local company. We answer to you, not New York. Thies & Duker's owners, associates, and staff members live right here. We're your neighbors.
I'm Tom Morgan, a financial consultant with Thies & Duker Financial Consulting Group. I recently joined Thies & Duker because I wanted to serve my clients in an independent firm that truly values clients, families, and this community. If that's what you're looking for too, give me a call at 448-8190.
Feel right at home at Thies & Duker. Visit us online at thiesandduker.com. THIESENDUEKER.com.
The consultants at Thies & Duker are registered representatives with and securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC.
All it takes is one call to the professionals at Valleywide Homes, and you'll start building wealth in real estate. Whether you're looking for your first home, moving up, or your next income-producing property, let Craig and his team at Valleywide help. There's never been a better time to get into the real estate market. Start the search for your next home by visiting our website at valleywidesells.com or call toll-free 800-979-3958. That's 800-979-3958, and put the seasoned professionals at Valleywide Homes to work for you.
listening to the Real Estate Radio Network with local expert Craig Barton. Now, here's Craig.
So now that everybody's thoroughly depressed about dying this morning, no, it's just part of life.
It's the end of life. Very sorry that I'm so obvious.
Well, it is. I tell you what, it's coming.
It happens.
Whether you like it or not. I gave you the story earlier real quick about my folks, and my dad had been, quote unquote, he had been ill with cancer for 8+ years, almost made it 9 years. And I tell you what, we knew that it was nearing the end. We were able to plan to a certain degree with him, but with my mom, she was 70 years old in phenomenal health. The last time I saw her was on the treadmill at GB3, and it's the most amazing memory that I have of my mom, because she was smiling and she was happy, she was in her element, and she was working out, which she loved to do. She did it 5 or 6 days a week, but we weren't prepared for Mom. We totally anticipated that Mom was I thought Mom would far outlive me, to be quite honest. But it didn't happen. And that's, I think, she had an aneurysm, unfortunately. And that's, for me, a perfect example where that you're told you better start planning, because if you don't and you have stuff, even if you don't have stuff, again, as you mentioned, there's some very basic documents that you need to have in place.
And Craig, it's so much easier to plan and do these documents when you don't have that life-threatening event right there in front of you. It could be because, of course, when you get to that point in time where you're really having to grasp the fact that the end is coming, then it just becomes much more difficult, to really put those thoughts into writing. When you're young and you're carefree and you're not worrying about it, it's just easier, and it's
well, it also saves a huge hassle for the heirs and the children, obviously.
And Susan brought up an extremely important point that I wanted to touch on before we get through the 10 questions that you have to ask yourself if you want to preserve your financial legacy. And that is that the reason why you don't prepare today isn't because, I don't know what it's going to look like down the road. I don't know what the future is going to look like. If there's some uncertainty as far as my children are concerned, or they're all minors right at the moment, I'm not really sure what it's going to look like. It's important that you take care of it today, as if you had to make that decision today, because down the road you can change it. You can change how your estate looks. You can change, quote unquote, the plan, because your needs might change as well.
That's right, Craig, and that's what I tell people. Make a decision now based on what you want today, because you could always change it later. And I have many clients that come in every 6 months or so, and they make changes to their estate plan depending on whether or not one of their kids has made them mad that week. So.
Wow. There you go, Tim. That one's for you, buddy. So the 10 questions that you have to ask yourself if you want to preserve, and these are really, they're going to strike a chord. You did a phenomenal job, Susan. If you want to preserve your financial legacy, number one, do you have a power of attorney for financial decisions in the event that you become incapacitated?
Craig, everybody should have this document, and this hit home for me a couple of years ago. My brother-in-law, at the age of 55, had a massive brain hemorrhage. He has been healthy in every respect, a mail carrier, and it was sudden, it was unexpected. This was my sister's husband, and I hadn't done any documents for him. It was just, you're young, you don't think you need them.
Sure.
He ended up in a comatose state for well over a month, and currently still trying to come back to himself. And she didn't have a health care power of attorney. And there's things you have to deal with. You have to deal with insurance issues, company retirement, benefit issues, things that have to be signed. You may have to rearrange assets to get somebody on Medi-Cal if they're in skilled nursing home care. So if you don't have that document, you could be putting a tremendous strain on your family.
Because if you can't make those decisions for a loved one who's going to.
Well, you have to go into court and be appointed as a conservator over that person's estate. Again, it's a court process. It's going to cost thousands and thousands of dollars.
Exactly my point.
Right.
And do you have a medical power of attorney with a HIPAA release?
Right. And we talked about that already. You need that to get billing information. And you also want to have a person appointed so you don't end up in one of those situations like the Terry Schiavo situation a number of years ago.
Yes.
Where you had two family members arguing over whether or not to keep her on life support.
Number 3, do you want California law to decide how your assets will be distributed?
And that's true. If you don't put it in writing, you don't have some type of a will, the law is going to dictate how it goes, which may not be what you want.
Really?
I was going to get a little dig in and say that, well, Gov Brown was going to get his piece, but never mind. I won't say that. I'll just keep that inside, I think. Number 4, will your children all agree? I have seen, I can't tell you how many instances, will your children all agree on the division of personal property and other assets after you're gone? No.
No, that's right.
Absolutely
they won't.
not.
Unless they just don't care about what it is you have.
One won't care, the other one will and won't say anything, and the other one will care and raise holy heck, but they weren't appointed or...
And I've seen it divide families. So,
I'm sure.
Yeah, it's important to put that down in writing.
Number 5, have you made provisions for minor children if you aren't around to care for them? That was a big one with my wife and I.
By law, if you don't have some type of a trust for children, they're entitled to inherit from you at age 18. And to me, that's a very scary thought.
Oh,
so.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, just kidding.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
So it's very simple to write trust provisions either in a will or a trust to have money managed for your children until they reach age 25, 30, whatever you want to designate, and have somebody in charge of their money.
That includes distribution of the proceeds from a life insurance policy as well.
And also includes nomination of a guardian for the person so you have some say in where they might live.
Are your adult children financially responsible to receive an inheritance? I think we just addressed that one. And do you want your estate to bear the expenses of probate? We talked about that earlier. It can be expensive.
Very expensive.
If you own real estate, do you have a trust?
You should. Everyone should, no matter what the value of the estate. Even if it's a small value property, what's called a summary procedure can cost more than a living trust.
Wow. Exactly. So run up the cost if you want. Just don't do anything.
Right.
If you have a trust, do you know what it does?
And that may be a topic for another program.
Absolutely. I think it is. I really do. I think it is. And number 10, if you have a trust, has it been properly funded? Again, another great topic. Would you come back and talk to us about trusts?
I'd love to.
Absolutely. Yay. Thanks so much. Susan Pascuzzi from Pascuzzi Pascuzzi and Stoker here in the studio. Again, if you'd like to sit down with Susan and you have some basic questions about how does my estate plan look, give Susan a call. Area code 559-227-1100. Again, 559-227-1100. Special thank you, Johnny B. behind the mics. Great job, buddy. Thank you for slowing me down this morning. Lisa Casso, client mommy, soon to be client grandma for the 14th time, something like that. Yeah, there you go. And Tim O'Hare, our licensed mortgage originator. If you've got a question for Tim, give Tim a call. 349-349-0789.
Thank you. 349-0789.
Again, our goal at the Real Estate Radio Network is to get you, our listeners, the timely and accurate truth about your local real estate market. We're going to tell you what the big banks in Wall Street don't want you to hear, so we can help bring you
back home.
Don't forget to tune into the Real Estate Radio Network. That was her first shot, kids. You can see Stardom has her Stardom has her Starstruck.
Whoa.
Don't forget to tune into the Real Estate Radio Network next Sunday morning at 9 a.m. on News Talk 580 and 105.9. KMJ. Local news, local talk. Make it a great day, Central California, and we will see you next week.
The preceding is paid for by the Real Estate Radio Network.